Hi, welcome back to our online class. Today we shall dive into our third hypothesis, which is, did Hinduism come from outside India? Alright, so we're going to take a look at that. So let's do a quick review of the other two hypotheses that we talked about in our past lesson, and that is, was it the M130 people? Was it the M130 people who brought Hinduism to India? No, there is no connection. Yes, we still see some of the chantings done by the Brahmins, but they are not found anywhere in the holy scriptures of the Hindus today. It's just a tradition that goes on, but has no indication in their holy scriptures. Number two, was it the Indus Valley civilization? Again, it's an old civilization. Many old civilizations have certain things in common, like fertility god worship and, worshiping many idols. Things like this are very common in all ancient religion, including sacrifices. But that does not have any connection with Hinduism, because the language of the Indus Valley is so different from the language that we find in the Vedas, including some of the gods and the depictions of the gods. Very, very different from the Hindu definition of God in their scriptures. All right, so we then come to our third hypothesis, and that is it the Aryan migration? All right, and I think it is the Aryan migration. So let's first of all take a look at what is Aryan, okay? This name itself, what does the word Aryan mean? Why did they call themselves Aryan? All right, that's your question number one. So let's open our Google Doc right now. I hope it's already open. All right, now you can open my video on one side of the screen and have your Google Doc on the other side. All right, you can split the screen. And then as you hear me, you could actually simply type it out. And that way, as the video comes to an end, your Google Doc should be done too. All right, so question number one, what does the word Aryan mean? Well, it simply means the civilized. All right, they call themselves the civilized. Now, the reason why they call themselves that is probably from the cultures that they came out from. They were much more advanced than the culture that they're coming into. All right, Aryan also means the noble. All right. It also means the aristocrat. All right. Aristocrat. It also means the polished, the mannerful, the etiquette. All right. So these were the people coming from Eastern Europe, fair skin, tall, blonde hair, blue eyes. All right. They were actually Falans. They are somewhat Germanic race. All right. And so as they moved towards east and south, and then finally entered into India, all right, they were better known as the Aryans, because they called themselves the civilized, the noble people. All right, now let's move on to our question number two. And question number two says, list 10 evidences that prove that Aryan migration must have brought Hinduism to India. All right, so here are the 10 evidences, all right? So let's take a look at these 10 evidence. Number one, language. Sanskrit language was the language spoken by the Aryans. This language did not exist in India. The Indus Valley people did not speak Sanskrit. Their written language has nothing similar to Sanskrit. Neither did the M130 people. So Sanskrit is a language that is an Indo-European language. And how do we know that? Well, if you look at some of the words, the roots is so similar. For example, the word father in Sanskrit is pita. In Latin is pitar. Similarly, the word mother in Sanskrit is mata. In Latin, it's matar. See that? How similar they are? So if you look at what was spoken in Europe, it's very similar to what is spoken by the Aryans, their language Sanskrit. There's even a word in Lithuanian, in Eastern Europe. It's the name of horse, the name horse. In Lithuanian, it's called asva. In Sanskrit, it is exactly asva. All right? So you can see that actually Sanskrit was more or less the language spoken in the Eastern European side. And these are the people who came into India bringing with them their language. All right? And of course, there is another word that is even similar to Thai word, and that is ratha. Ratha. In Sanskrit, ratha simply means a four-wheel wagon. A four-wheel wagon. Ratha. Now, why did I say it's very similar to Thai? You know, what do you say in Thai? The name for vehicle. Cars. What do you say it? You say roth. Roth. All right? Now, in my language, actually, we also say it roth. All right? Roth simply means a chariot or a vehicle. All right? And the Sanskrit people, they call it ratha. Ratha, we got roth. Okay? Similar to even Thai word for car. Okay, so language is number one, evidence. Number two, the Rig Veda. Now, this is a giveaway, because if you look at the Rig Veda, they are oldest of the four Vedas. The Vedas has 4 volumes. The oldest is the Rig Veda. The Rig Veda is written in Sanskrit. All right? And so when you look at their scriptures, they already point to a foreign language. A Rig Veda contains a lot of rituals, a lot of things that are not common in India. You don't see those things in India. All right? So their Holy Scripture itself is another proof that it is a foreign religion, a foreign idea. Number 3, the gods, especially the god Indra. Indra is the god of thunder, god of rain. All right? This concept of a god who brings down rain, you find that in Rig Veda everywhere, as the people would be praying for rain so that their crops would grow. They would pray to God Indra, Lord Indra. All right? And so this god itself is a new god. Indians did not have the concept of Indra. It was brought into India. So that's our evidence number 3. The god Indra. Evidence number 4. We see in the writings of the Aryans, they talk about an animal called horse. Horse is an animal that you do not see in India. I mean, you see it now because they were brought by the Aryans. But before the Aryans came, horse did not exist in India. It existed in Arabian Peninsula. It existed a lot in Central Asia. But because of that mountain, the mountain range, all right, the Himalayas and all that, it blocked these animals from coming into Indian subcontinent, all right. But the Aryans were able to bring them in, all right, to India. Number 5, the taming of the horses. Now, this is again another thing that you could see that how advanced these Aryans were, that they were able to even tame horses at a very early period. They were able to tame the horses. Now, of course, today we know we can tame horses. They can be domesticated. We could use them for our work. But we can see the Aryans were the people who knew how to tame horses from very early age. Next, we got a soma plant. Now, this is something interesting. All right. The Rig Veda talks about the gods, like Indra would drink a lot of soma. All right. It's like a tea, but it would enliven your senses. All right. You could think clearly. You could see things. All right. It's almost like getting high. All right. But by drinking some kind of tea. All right. And so Indra would drink a lot of this drink called soma. Now, this soma, as I said, it's like a tea. So you need to have the leaves or the twigs, the small brown branches, okay, that you would soak it in the water, and the water would turn pinkish, all right? And you would drink it, and it will just simply enliven all your senses. This plant is not found in India. It doesn't grow in India. India is too humid for this plant to grow. But we find these plants actually growing up in the mountains, all right? Somewhere in Afghanistan, North Pakistan, Afghanistan, and Central Asia, like Turkmenistan, all right? And the Vedas talks about this plant, and yet this plant does not exist in India. Next, we got moving eastward. Now, if you look at the trend of these Aryans, as they moved from Eastern Europe, as they moved towards India, their trail went east, and then going a little south and east, south and east, south and east. Finally, they entered through the passage from Afghanistan into Pakistan, into India. You can see their route, how it went eastward as they camped at various sites, okay? And then they moved and they camped, they moved, they camped, all right? If you take a look at that pattern, you will see there is a pattern of moving eastward for this group of people. That shows that they came from west, moving into east. Next, we got horse sacrifice. All right, how can there be horse sacrifice in India if they did not have horses? All right, so the Aryans, one of their biggest ceremony was horse sacrifice. All right, they would probably do that before the plantation, before such a big ceremony as inauguration of a king or something. All right, they would sacrifice horses. Now, horses, you could find them a lot in Central Asia. Therefore, they could usually do that. Okay? But when they came to India, there was no more horse sacrifice. Why? Because they brought with them very, very limited number of horses. And so they could not afford to lose the horse by sacrificing them. All right? And so we see the last part, the last place where they had the horse sacrifice, it was in Turkmenistan, in Central Asia. After that, we do not see that, but it's written in the Vedas, horse sacrifice. But we know Hindus do not do horse sacrifice in India today. All right. Next, fire altars. Oh, yes. You see that even till today in India, but we found the fire altars in Turkmenistan, where we saw the Aryans. When we did the digging in the Karakoram desert, we found some artifacts. Okay, we found a skeleton of a horse. We found the fire altars. We found the bowl that contained probably soma. We found all of those buried in the city. All right. So fire altars, which was very, very common for the Aryans. It was a part of their ritual, something like the Zoroastrians, the Aryans, and now even Hindus. If you look at the Hindu ceremony, every ceremony has to do with the fire. They light up the fire, and a lot of things have to do around the fire. They have to take the fire, go around, and all kinds of things are involved using the fire. This concept was brought into India by the Aryans. And finally, the tenth evidence is we also found wagons. We also found wagons. Wagons that was used by the Aryans to migrate as they came from Eastern Europe, as they came into India. They couldn't just walk or just ride on a horse and bring all these things with them. Of course, they were transporting their entire village, all right, their entire family coming into migrating to India. So they had these huge wagons which had 4 wheels, pulled by horses, all right, or even bulls. And so they would load up their wagons with all their needs, with all their things that they need every day, all right, and they'll pack them up and they will move. And so we found in this trail where their wagons broke down, and those wagons were, disposed. We can find them, we can dig up, and we found a lot of wagons. The trail, as the Aryans came, we followed the trail, and every trail, everywhere they camped, we found wagons. All right, wagons that got spoiled or did not work anymore, damaged. They just left them behind, and they probably built newer ones, and they moved on. And the old discarded ones are still out there. Archaeologists, they found all these wagons. All right. So these are the 10 evidences that shows that, yes, Hinduism was brought into India by some foreigners. And we know now that they were the Aryans, using this 10 evidence. All right, let's move on to our next question. Do you agree all men have need of the gods by Homer? Now, who is this Homer? Now, this is not Homer Simpson. All right. No, this is the Greek Homer, okay? The author of Iliad and Odyssey, if you know that, those two poems, okay? The epic, the poems. They are the foundational work of ancient Greek literature, all right? Iliad was written during the Trojan War. So now this Greek dude, he made this comment, this quotation, this phrase, all right, this remark, and that is, all men have need of the gods. We all have the need of the God. What do you think? Do you agree with Homer or not? Okay, just tell me in 2 or 3 sentences. Do you think what Homer said was only applicable to him during his time, but maybe it's not so applicable today in 21st century? What do you think? Do you agree with Homer or you disagree with Homer? All right, that's something for you to think about and write and let me know. Moving on to next question. Explain the quotation, okay, by Albert Einstein, okay? He said, all religions, arts, and sciences are the branches of the same tree. What? How can religion and science come from the same tree? I thought they would disagree with each other. I thought they are like opposites, but not according to Einstein. He says religion, arts, and sciences, they are all the branches of the same tree. What do you think? Do you agree? If so, can you tell us how they are connected? Please do let me know. Write 2 or 3 sentences to explain this quotation. All right, moving on to our next question. Explain how everything in the world has a spirit. Everything in the world has a spirit. Now, this question has been taken from this book. All right. It's an interesting book. I have this book in my classroom, but since we're doing online, I do have the PDF of this article, which is found in your assignment. Take a look at the assignment. You will see the attachment there, a PDF. It's found on page 24 of this book. It actually talks about the animistic group found in Japan, all right, in Japan. Here, it's actually taken from this chapter here called Even a Rock Has a Spirit. Animism in Early Society. Okay, so this is talking about the Ainu people in Japan. In Hokkaido Island, up north, there is a group of there are a group of people in Hokkaido. They call themselves the Ainu people, A-I-N-U. All right. And these people, they believe that nature has a spirit, okay? Everything in nature has a spirit. Even a rock could even have a spirit. Please explain that by skimming through this article in this book, all right? I have given you the attachment. Please go through it quickly and you can explain to me perhaps in 1 paragraph, what does it mean by even a rock can have a spirit? All right. And finally, for our last question for today, and that is using a Venn diagram. Now, it's hard to create a Venn diagram in Google Docs, so I gave you a table, all right, with 3 columns. The center column is something that is common between the two, and the 2 opposite columns are the opposites, contrasts. All right, so using the Venn diagram, compare and contrast animism with pantheism. So now that you know what is pantheism, and after reading a little bit about animism from this book over here, from our article today, you will get to know a little more about what is animistic practice. For me to see if you have understood what is animism, let me see if you can compare and contrast animism with pantheism. All right, so that's it for today. I will see you again in our next video. Once you're done, please turn in and you can leave the Google Meet. All right, if you have any question, feel free to voice out. I am right here in Google Meet. Have fun, and I'll see you again. Bye.